I don't care what anybody says, the 2000s had to be one of the craziest decades in mankind. I mean, we literally saw like the transition of modern technology and everything, from big bulky TVs to flat screens, from anime being for nerds only to anime going mainstream. With even celebrities talking about it, from push button devices to touchscreen devices, from 2D animation to 3D animation. The 2000s was a crazy freaking decade, and I'm here to tell you all about it. This is your granddaddy of geek culture, Andy Matrix. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Hello guys, don't forget to like this video, don't forget to subscribe, and hit that little bell right there so that you can get notifications every time I upload a video. Okay? Enjoy. What is up, guys? This is your boy Andy Matrix. Welcome to Andy Arts TV, where I talk about anime, manga, video games, geek culture, and Japanese culture. For today's dose of geek culture, I'm gonna take you back all the way to the 2000s again. And I'm talking about from the year 2000 all the way to 2009. So buckle up, precious, and get ready. Also, if you guys are interested, I actually did a video on what was it like to be an anime fan in the early 2000s. So go and check that out too. Alright, so look, I graduated high school in 2007, so you can probably tell how old I am. Just take the current year and subtract it by that year, and yeah, you can pretty much tell how old I am, right? Or actually, unless you know my birthday, which I'm not gonna tell you. And I decided to get in front of the camera for this. I usually have my little character on the side of the screen, but because the 2000s was such it's a special decade for me. It's the decade that I was a teenager. It's a decade, that I consumed so many video games, from many Square Enix titles, Final Fantasy stuff. Oh my god, like the movies, the Disney movies, just everything. The entertainment was great, and I see everything that's happening now, and I can see that, something happened in human history, well, especially in the West, where it's like everything that used to be uncool now is being used, and is kind of being like twisted, somewhat. I talk a lot about this on my channel. It's like everything that was popular in the 2000s, they take it, they bring it back, and it's like they kind of ruined it. And this is also true for things from the 90s and from the 90s and the 80s. But just stay with me here. So the 2000s was what I like to call the decade of replacement. Okay, the decade of replacement. Listen to your granddaddy, guys. Listen up. It was a decade of replacement. Because I remember when in the 90s, when the first Toy Story movie came out. I remember I was living in, I was not living in America, let's just say. But I would go to my friend's house when I was little, and he would have all the Disney DVDs. Cassettes. The VHS. You Gen Z, you would not know anything about this, okay? The VHS. Okay? That's how I used to watch, all the Disney stuff. People used to go to the library, okay? People used to go to the library and, rent out DVDs, rent out cassettes, all that cool stuff, with Netflix and Hulu, Disney Plus. Man, I haven't gone to a library in such a long time, especially now with the pandemic. Like, do people even rent DVDs anymore? I mean, you could just watch them. You can watch everything online now. So in the 2000s, 3D animation started booming, and this was with Pixar Toy Story, Finding Nemo. Okay, Finding Nemo was this huge movie that just freaking took over. And then we saw Disney buying out Pixar, right? And then once Disney bought out Pixar, and I think this was in the late 2000s, like 2008, 2009, I think. Then that is when you know, basically we just had Disney said, you know, screw 2D movies, and we're just gonna make 3D animated movies, and then the 2D stuff, all the lame stuff, we're gonna just put it on the Disney Channel. Okay, end of story. That's kind of what happened to put it in less than a minute. So 2D animation was replaced by 3D animation. As you can see, when it comes to the movies, the big stuff is always in 3D, and then when it comes to like the little stuff, it's always 2D animation. And then some people would say, oh well, we have anime. Anime is super popular, and it's hand-drawn 2D animation. You're definitely right. And again, with the 2000s being the decade of replacement, anime was for nerds back then. Again, go watch my video. You know, what was it like to be an anime fan in the early 2000s? Anime was still uncool in the 2000s. I'm talking about 2003, 2004, 2005. It wasn't until like 2011, 2012 that it really started bumping up, and it became like really global, especially with Netflix producing its own anime and all these things. That's what happened. Okay, that's basically what happened. Anime in the early 2000s. I remember, you know, with the Yu-Gi-Oh cards, the Pokemon cards, all that stuff. Like, most likely, if you were playing any of these stuff, most likely, like, you know, girls will not like you. You would not get laid if some hot chick knew that you were into this stuff. And fast forward to now, that same hot chick is probably watching like Sailor Moon. I don't know, freaking what's the coolest like girl anime now? Your Name, all these new anime that are coming out now. She will be a fan of those. That same hot chick that rejected you in high school. Okay. And actually, that same jock, you know, the school bully, they say, yeah, look at those anime geeks. Buh. Those same guys will be watching Death Note, One Punch Man, Dragon Ball. Like, it's mainstream. Anime is mainstream now. Before, not only was being an anime fan expensive, but like it was uncool. It was you were just basically a nerd. Like, you know, you will be on the same level as a Star Wars geek, a Star Trek nerd, Star Wars nerd. You will be on that same level, and you will just be looked down. Okay? And of course, in high school, there was the anime table, then there was the cool table, then there was like the hip hop table, and you guys know the whole story, right? And we literally saw anime replacing American cartoons. And look where we are. I mean, seriously, look where we are. Even America is investing into anime. Toonami, I talked about this in previous videos. Toonami is going to fully start producing their own anime. And I know Toonami has been making their own anime, you know, for a while now, but now they're going full on, like completely full on with producing their own anime, right? And the 2000s, we also saw the beginning of the superhero movies. Okay, Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is still the best Spider-Man. I don't care what anybody says, and I will fight you over that. Okay, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is still the best Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, get out of here. Tom Holland, yeah, he's kind of cool. I gotta give it to him. But the original Spider-Man movie, the first one that came out in the year 2000, that was the best freaking Spider-Man movie, period. Even with the quality of filming back then, it was one of the best Spider-Man, And then after that, they tried other things like there were some X-Men movies, there was the Hulk movie, but it just didn't seem to get anywhere. Like the Hulk movie, people hated it. It just never became popular. And then in 2008, the Iron Man movie came out, and that was like super duper popular. Iron Man basically took the world by storm. Okay, that movie in 2008, I mean, it was great, guys. I mean, it was just absolutely breathtaking. Iron Man was just, it was the superhero movie that really told Marvel, that really convinced Marvel that, hey, you know what? I think we can do this. I think we can make an entire like universe based on, you know, our superhero intellectual properties. And then they took it from there. Right? And then in the 2010s, you know, the nightmare happened and Disney bought Marvel and it all went to shit. Anyways. Yeah, so superhero movies boomed in the 2000s. Well, the 2000s was the year of transitioning. Again, it was the year of replacement. It was beginning to, you know, gain popularity, and people were like, man, this is so cool. Right? And then, of course, there was also the X-Men movies. In the 2000s, we experienced the first MMO games such as RuneScape, and we had the first like basically online gaming through consoles. Because like with the PlayStation 3, you could play with your friends, you know, Call of Duty and all that stuff. You know, if you had internet connection, you could play with your friends. That was the first time, and that was around 2000. What was it? 2008, 2007, I think. But in the early 2000s, like 2001, 2002, somewhere around there, we had RuneScape. If anybody remembers RuneScape, you know, I used to go to the library to get on the computer to play RuneScape. And, you know, it had these really old, blocky graphics, but it was great back then, dude. I mean, it was great. Also, the 2000s was the, you know, the decade where, like, I don't know if you guys remember those big, bulky televisions. I used to have one of those. Those things are heavy. You guys have no idea how good you have it. Those monitors, those televisions, those things are heavy. Like big bulky TVs, they were replaced by the flat screen TVs. When the flat screen TVs came out, it was a breath of fresh air, I tell you. There was so much space in the room all of a sudden with the flat screens. It was like, it was a renaissance, for God's sakes. Like, oh my God. What else? Oh yeah, music. Hip hop. Hip hop was slowly replacing rock and heavy metal music. Look, the 1980s was an amazing decade for rock music, and as well as the 90s. You know, in the 90s you got ska punk, nu metal. You kind of had like that Linkin Park mix of rap and rock and roll. You know, there was excuse me, there was a mixture that happened between the late 90s and the 2000s, right? Hip hop slowly conquered the music industry. Now, there was also a shift. You know, there was also a rise. There were like a lot of genres were being created in the rock genres, rock and heavy metal. But towards the late 2000s, like 2007, 2008, 2009, like MTV was not even playing rock and metal music videos anymore. It was just pop and hip hop. But hip hop, it took over. I mean, it really took over the music industry. And if you look at what's happening now, that is very true. Like, I don't want to say that rock and metal went underground. I would say maybe maybe heavy metal went kind of underground. Like, if you want to listen to heavy metal, you're not gonna find it on television anymore. You gotta go looking for it on the internet through your friends. You gotta ask your friends about new bands. You gotta go to somebody's website, somebody's blog. That's how you would find out. However, rock music, like, you know, regular rock music like Fall Out Boy, that is still very mainstream. You know, you can still find that very easily. But now you seriously have to search for rock and heavy metal music. Hip hop and pop music is always promoted by the mainstream. That's just a given, right? Oh yeah, so we experienced Netflix. This was like towards the late 2000s. Yeah, so towards the late 2000s, right around 2008, 2009, we experienced Netflix, and Netflix, that was the beginning of the end for Blockbuster. Okay, so we saw the beginning of video streaming websites like Netflix, and then all the video rental companies out. Blockbuster, goodbye, and any other all those types of business models. So it was the beginning of the streaming service type of business model, right? What else? Video game graphics started to improve. So in the early 2000s, you would see, like, even with the PlayStation 1, you will always see that these still have these blocky graphics, like the rectangular fingers. And then once we reach the level of PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3, with PlayStation 3, that's when we started seeing more realistic graphics, right? More realistic graphics. That was a huge change. That was such an amazing experience to see. We know, especially with the PlayStation 3. And speaking of technology, also we had a huge shift from having a device in your hand that could only handle 500 megabytes. I remember I used to buy these little MP3 players. If anybody remembers that. I mean, everybody just, you know, downloads music to their phone, but we had these MP3 players. This is before the smartphone. We had these MP3 players that only had like 500 megabytes, and one song would be like 12 megabytes. So yeah, so your device will be able to handle only about like 40-50 songs. Now you can have thousands of songs, right? So yeah, it was a crazy switch. And then, like, towards the late 2000s, you know, people started to see like 1 gigabyte flash drive, 2 gigabyte flash drive, 5 gigabytes. It was an amazing, like, renaissance. Yeah, so the 2000s was the year of replacement. And also another thing that I wanted to talk about as far as the anime, you know, the anime industry, was Tokyo Pop. Okay, Tokyo Pop was the biggest distributor of manga in the West, in America. I think, yeah, in the West, America and Canada. And they own like 40%, like 50% of the manga market, right? Something like that, of the manga market. And then it wasn't until the crash of 2008, the recession, and I lived through that recession, guys. I lived through the 2008 recessions. I was going to a community college. I was looking for work. I was poor. I was living. I'm not gonna go deeper, but it was sad. It was sad. The 2008 recession. It was freaking sad. It was a dark time. So, but Tokyo Pop, during that time, once the recession hit in 2008, Tokyo Pop went down like this, bro. The charts just went down like this. And around that time, Borders. I don't know if you guys remember Borders. Once, I think around 2010, that's when Borders started closing. A lot of Borders stores started closing. And Borders, in case you guys don't remember, I'll put the logo here on the video. Borders was a book and music store. A book and music store, and it had a really nice cafe there where you could sit down and read books. Like everything after that, everything just went digital. There's ebooks now. You can read on your tablets, on your phone, on whatever. Everything just went digital. Excuse me. And if it wasn't from Barnes and Nobles, I think that I don't know what would be of bookstores without Barnes and Nobles. I mean, there's also Books A Million, but what would happen? Like, without Barnes and Nobles, there wouldn't be much of, like, man, I don't know. But the 2000s, the main, I would say that the main things, the horrific things, the horrible events of the 2000s was, number one, 9/11. Okay, that happened in 9/11 happened in 2001, when the Twin Towers went down. And again, I was there. I saw it with my own eyes in news. I think I was in the fourth or third grade when that happened. Yeah, the fourth or third grade. And I still remember I was in English class. And I saw, like, I went back home, and in the news, you would see like these airplanes, poof, crashing into the buildings, man. Devastating moment. And yeah, it was the 9/11, and then the crash of 2008. These two huge events that basically made the 2000s. Also, let's not forget, the 2000 gave us, gave us movies like The Matrix. The Matrix was the movie, okay? The Matrix was the movie that innovated. Again, The Matrix was the movie that innovated the slow motion movies. That move that came from The Matrix, right? That came from The Matrix. And then after that, a whole bunch of other, like, the director's copy, doing the whole slow motion thing. Man, that was so legendary. Anyways, that is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening to this blog. Once in a while, I do like to get off, get in front of the camera, and stop using the screen recorder and just talk to you guys directly instead of using my little character, my little chibi character, right? So that is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this little history lesson of the 2000s, make sure to comment below. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Subscribe for more content. I talk about anime. I talk about manga a lot. I talk about the video game industry, geek culture, and Japanese culture. Okay, I no longer talk about Western movies because I don't like what Hollywood is doing. I don't talk about Western movies anymore on my channel. I don't talk about superhero movies anymore, or just movies in general. I don't do movie reviews of Western movies anymore because of the things that are happening. And I want to be a full-time YouTuber, and I know that because of those things, YouTube is gonna try to target my channel and like some victims that I know of. So Western movies, I just don't see the point of talking about them anymore. Besides hating on them, hating on Western movies and all these reboots that are happening, I don't see it's not worth it. Right? It's just not worth talking about them anymore. Anyways, this is the granddaddy of geek culture and The Matrix. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to the channel, and Godspeed.